Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. That morning started like static. Cold coffee. Empty house. Her note on the counter. Late shift ran long. Love you. Don't wait up. Except, she was already home. And she was in the shower. She came in through the back door. Quiet. Slipped off her shoes like she was sneaking into a stranger's house. She didn't know I was still awake. Or maybe she forgot I work from home on Tuesdays. I didn't call out to her. I should have. But something in my gut twisted the moment I heard her laugh. Soft. Low. Like a secret. She left her bag on the kitchen stool. Open. I don't know what pulled me toward it. I've never been that guy. I don't snoop. I hate drama. But something felt wrong. Inside the bag, right on top, was a receipt. A single receipt from a gas station 2 towns over. Timestamp. 2:42 a.m. Not a vet clinic. Not even close. Underneath it, a men's shirt. Wrinkled. Smelled like smoke and sweat and peppermint. Then I saw her wedding ring, my wedding ring, in the side pocket. She hadn't worn it in weeks. Said it got too tight. Funny. It fit perfectly when I slipped it on her finger 5 years ago. The water was still running. I could hear her humming again. I put everything back exactly the way I found it. And I sat down in silence, waiting for the lie she didn't know she was about to tell. The water stopped. I heard the metal rings of the shower curtain scrape along the rod, followed by the soft slap of wet feet on tile. My palms were still sweating. I couldn't even remember how long I'd been sitting there. But the bag looked exactly as I'd left it, except now it felt radioactive. Like if I looked at it again, I'd see something worse. She came out in her robe, towel wrapped around her head like she hadn't just crept through the back door and left proof of something behind. Her eyes met mine for a split second too long. Not in a warm, good morning way, but like she was scanning me for any sign that I knew. "You're up early," she said, heading straight for the fridge. I didn't respond. My throat was dry. I watched her pour oat milk into her coffee like she always did, like this was just another Tuesday. She took a sip, turned, and smiled. "I'm gonna crash hard," she said, rubbing her neck. Crazy night. 2 emergencies. Then the power went out in the surgery room. Total chaos. I nodded slowly, eyes locked on her. That single lie, smooth, confident, detailed, felt like a dagger. I had the receipt still folded in my hoodie pocket. 2:42 a.m. Gas station 46 minutes away from her clinic. There was no power outage. No emergency. Just a detour she hadn't planned on me discovering. Then her phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at it without touching it. I, on the other hand, stared right at it. Just one word lit up the lock screen. Same time tomorrow? No name. Just the message preview. Her hand snapped it up too fast. Like a reflex, not a casual reaction. She forced a laugh. "Spam," she said quickly, swiping it away. "I keep getting these random texts. Probably some weird work group thread. Right? Because strangers text you, same time tomorrow, while you're in a robe at 6:30 in the morning." I still didn't say anything. Couldn't. I didn't even know where to start. I just stood up and said I needed air. She didn't stop me. She barely looked up. I walked out the front door and sat in the car with the windows rolled down. That text echoed in my head like a siren. Same time tomorrow. That meant routine. That meant repetition. That meant whatever she did last night wasn't a one-time mistake. It was planned, scheduled, expected, and I wasn't part of the schedule. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. There was no rage, just nausea. Just this sick realization that the woman humming in the shower minutes ago might have been humming someone else's tune. And the worst part? I was already imagining what same time tomorrow would bring, because she clearly wasn't planning to stop. I didn't go back inside for almost an hour. I just sat there in the car, gripping the receipt in my pocket like it could somehow explain itself. My mind kept flipping between denial and fury, but mostly I felt small, insignificant, like a background character in my own life. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd been so proud to support Jory's career, her ambition, her independence. I never questioned the overtime, the late-night emergencies, the exhaustion. I had convinced myself that love meant trust, and trust meant never asking too many questions. But now, every unanswered question I'd ignored came flooding back in full color. The times she showered immediately after work. The new perfume she said a nurse friend recommended. The nights she fell asleep before I even got a hello. I gave her space because I thought that's what good husbands do. I never realized how easy it is to get lost in someone else's shadow. When I finally went back inside, the house was still. Jory was already asleep in the bedroom, curled up under the blanket, her hair still damp, one arm dangling over the side like she hadn't just lied straight to my face. I stood there for a moment just watching her. How do you confront someone who looks that peaceful? How do you accuse someone of betrayal when they're sleeping like they don't carry a secret? I didn't wake her. Instead, I walked into the kitchen, grabbed her phone charger, and plugged it into the outlet beside the couch. She never lets her phone out of her sight while awake, but in sleep, she's careless. That would be my chance. I knew I had to do something I never imagined myself doing, snooping, violating her privacy. But I had to know. I didn't want to explode without proof. I didn't want to ruin my life over a hunch. I just needed one solid confirmation. A message, a photo, a name, anything that would justify the storm brewing in my chest. I felt pathetic making this kind of plan, like I was some fragile, jealous husband with too much time on his hands. But I told myself if I was wrong, I'd apologize for the rest of my life. And if I was right, well, at least I'd know. So I waited, quiet, tense. I lay on the couch with my back to the hallway, pretending to nap, but I never closed my eyes. Around noon, I heard her stir. The bathroom door opened. Water running. Hairdryer. Her footsteps passed by the living room, and then I heard the front door open and close. She was gone again. Said she had brunch plans. No kiss goodbye. No eye contact. Just keys, purse, door. I rushed to the bedroom and grabbed her phone. It was locked, of course, but I'd watched her unlock it enough times to know her passcode. I felt like a criminal. I told myself this was survival. The screen lit up, and just like that, the first message I saw made my stomach flip. Don't forget your necklace. You left it in the car. I checked the sender's name, M. No emoji, no last name, just M. The message was timestamped 5 minutes after she left for work last night. She wasn't at work. She was in his car, and she forgot her necklace. But she remembered to kiss me goodbye. I stared at the message like it had the power to burn through the screen. Don't forget your necklace. You left it in the car. Just one sentence. Casual. Familiar. Like they'd done this a dozen times. Like it wasn't a secret at all. I held her phone in my hands, numb, as if I were handling someone else's life, someone else's heartbreak. But it was mine. All mine. And the pain hit different when it wasn't just suspicion anymore, it was confirmation. I scrolled up, slowly, my hands trembling so badly I nearly dropped the phone. There wasn't a long thread. Jory was careful. Too careful. The messages were mostly deleted, but this one had slipped through. Maybe he'd sent it after she'd already left the car. Maybe she hadn't noticed. But I did. And I wasn't about to let it go. I tapped on M. No full name, no profile photo. Just a number. I copied it and pasted it into a search app one never thought I'd use. It wasn't instant, but within seconds, a name popped up. Marshall Dean. It rang no bells. I didn't know the guy. I searched him on social media, private accounts, generic profile pics. But one thing stood out, a tagged photo. Someone had posted a group selfie at a dog park a few weeks ago. There she was, Jory, laughing, in sunglasses, holding a coffee, standing right beside him, their shoulders touching. She told me she was working that day. Something in my chest cracked. I went back to the phone. I knew I shouldn't, but I had to see more. I checked her photo gallery. Nothing recent. She'd cleaned it out. But when I checked her deleted folder, my breath caught. There were 5 photos, all from the past 2 weeks, all at night. 2 were blurry shots of the inside of a car. One was a mirror selfie she took in the bathroom, wearing a black dress I hadn't seen before, and the other 2 were of her legs, stretched out across a passenger seat, hand holding a fast food milkshake. The kind of careless picture you send when you're flirting, when you're trying to be cute, when you're not with your husband. I didn't even realize I was crying until I saw the screen blur. I sat down on the edge of our bed, still clutching her phone, the silence of the house pressing in on me like a weight I couldn't bear. This wasn't just suspicion anymore. This wasn't emotional distance or poor communication or stress from work. This was betrayal. And she had been living it like a second life while I folded her laundry and packed her lunch. Suddenly the door opened. I panicked and locked her phone just in time. She walked in holding a small paper bag and a smoothie. "I brought you something," she said, her voice light, too light. "Figured you hadn't eaten." She set the bag on the table and looked around. "Everything okay?" I nodded. I couldn't speak, couldn't look her in the eye. I felt like I was suffocating in my own skin. She smiled, leaned in, and kissed my cheek, like everything was normal, like she wasn't hiding a necklace that wasn't mine, like her smile hadn't been in someone else's car just hours earlier. "I'm gonna shower," she said, walking toward the bathroom. I watched her go, and in that moment, something inside me turned off. I wasn't just sad anymore. I wasn't confused. I wasn't even angry. I was done pretending I didn't see the signs. She left her phone on the counter this time. And I knew. Tonight, I was going to call M. Myself. I don't know what I expected to hear when I dialed his number. Maybe I thought it would go straight to voicemail. Maybe I hoped he'd deny everything, give me some logical explanation that would snap the world back into place. But no. The phone rang 3 times and then he answered. His voice was calm, confident, like he wasn't the least bit surprised to hear from me. "Yeah," he said, like he was expecting a pizza delivery. I froze. My mind was racing with 1,000 things I wanted to scream at him, accuse him of, demand from him. But instead, all that came out was, "Do you even know who you're talking to?" There was a pause, and then a low, amused exhale. "I do now." He knew. He knew. And he didn't even flinch. "You're Emery," he added casually, like we were old friends catching up. "She told me you might reach out." That sentence alone should have broken me. But instead, it lit something cold in me. Like all the begging and waiting and hoping was done. Now it was just survival. "So what is this then?" I asked. My voice was shaking, but I didn't care. "Are you in love with her? Or is this just a game to you?" Marshall didn't answer right away. When he did, he sounded thoughtful, almost bored. "Look, man, I'm not gonna pretend I'm proud of this. I didn't plan for it to happen. But she's not the person you think she is." I hated how calm he was, how practiced. This wasn't his first time explaining himself to the husband of the woman he was sleeping with. That made it worse. So much worse. "What do you mean she's not the person I think she is?" I snapped. "She's my wife." He sighed. "Then maybe you should ask her why she told me she sleeps in the guest room now. Or why she said you barely touch her anymore." That hit me in the chest like a sledgehammer. She told him that? She made me sound like a stranger in my own home. Like I'd abandoned her. Like I was the reason she wandered. And the worst part? I started to doubt myself. Had I made her feel that way without realizing it? But then I remembered the motel receipt. The texts. The necklace. The photos. No, this wasn't some emotional void. This was choice. Her choice. "I'm not here to beg or threaten," I said, finally steadying my voice. "But you need to understand something. You've been seeing a woman who comes home and lies to my face with the same mouth she used to kiss you. And you're both playing with matches in a house I built." Marshall was quiet for a long time. Then he muttered, "Guess I'll see myself out." Click. That was it. No apology. No guilt. Just a clean, smug exit. I stood in the kitchen, phone in hand, heart pounding out of rhythm. I didn't know if he would back off. I didn't know if she would come clean. But I did know one thing. I couldn't live in that limbo anymore. So I walked down the hall and opened the bedroom closet. I pulled out the small suitcase we usually saved for weekend trips. And I started packing, not hers, mine, because I needed to leave before I said something I couldn't take back. before I broke in ways that couldn't be fixed. The only thing I didn't take? Her phone, because I knew she'd check the call history, and I wanted her to know I'd spoken to him. I wanted her to feel the silence that came after. I didn't leave that night. Not because I forgave her, not because I was second-guessing, but because I realized something important. If I walked out quietly, she'd never have to look at the damage. She'd move on with her sanitized version of the story, maybe even tell people I emotionally drifted, that our marriage just fell apart. I couldn't let her rewrite the ending. Not this time. So I waited. I laid in bed next to her like nothing was wrong. She slept soundly. Of course she did. She had no idea I talked to him. No clue I'd packed a suitcase and put it in the trunk of my car. In the dark, I stared at the ceiling, playing and replaying what I'd say. But no script ever feels quite right when your world's been pulled out from under you. Morning came like a hammer. She rolled over, kissed my shoulder, and asked if I wanted her to pick up groceries after work. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I realized how deep the performance went. She could talk about oat milk and dinner plans while the world was burning underneath us. I told her no, I'd handle groceries. My voice came out hollow. She didn't seem to notice. She got up, brushed her hair, and went about her routine like we weren't two people living in separate realities. She didn't even check her phone until she was halfway to the door. That's when it hit her. I watched her stop cold in the hallway, thumb frozen on her screen. Her eyes darted toward me, then quickly away. Her mouth opened like she was about to say something, but she didn't. She dropped her phone into her purse, forced a smile, and said, "I'll see you tonight." I nodded. She left, and then I waited again. She came home at 5:32 p.m. Earlier than usual. Her eyes looked puffy. She set her bag down gently, like she thought noise might trigger an explosion. I was sitting at the dining table, the suitcase I'd packed, now on the floor beside me. "I talked to him," I said, not bothering to look up. Silence. For a long, long moment. Then, "I figured." That's all she said. No denial. No scrambling lie. No fake outrage that I violated her privacy. Just those two words. I finally looked at her. "You weren't even going to tell me, were you?" Her lips parted, then closed. She pulled out the chair across from me and sat down like she was surrendering. But not to me, to the inevitability of it all. Like this was a scene she'd played out in her mind and had already made peace with. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she said. "It just happened." Those 4 words, "it just happened," made my blood boil in the quietest way possible. Like I was being erased by a phrase. Like all the effort, the loyalty, the blind trust one gave her could be swept away with a shrug and a line fit for a teenager caught sneaking out. "You had a choice," I said. "Every step of the way you had a choice. Don't insult me by acting like you tripped and fell into his car." Her eyes narrowed. Not with anger but guilt, finally. "You were distant," she said, voice brittle. "We haven't connected in a long time. You barely touched me. I didn't feel like your wife anymore. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just shook my head. And your solution to that was to sleep with someone else? To let him wear your necklace while I made your coffee every morning?" She looked down. "I don't want a speech," I added. "I want the truth." And she gave it. Slowly. Painfully. The meetups. The motel. The texts. The nights she said she was at work when she was actually tangled up with a man who had no investment in our life. Our house, our history, me. When she finished, she asked quietly, "Do you hate me?" I stared at her, empty. "No," I said. "That would make this easier." Then I stood up, picked up my suitcase, and walked to the door. She didn't stop me. She didn't cry. And that silence hurt more than any goodbye ever could. I didn't go far. Just a small hotel near the edge of town with humming ice machines and stiff pillows that didn't smell like betrayal. I lay there for hours, staring at the ceiling, wondering how many versions of my life had existed without my permission. How many nights had she come home to me after being with him? How many "I love yous" had been whispered out of convenience, not conviction? I didn't want revenge. I didn't want justice. I just wanted clarity. I wanted her to feel what it was like to sit alone with the truth. Raw, undeniable, and ugly. And that's when I decided I wouldn't vanish quietly. No, she'd spent months lying in silence. Now it was my turn to say nothing and let reality speak for me. The next day, I went back to the house. Not to move back in, but to collect more than clothes. I needed documentation. Bank records, insurance info, personal files. She was at work, or at least that's what her calendar said. And the house felt hollow without her carefully curated energy. I walked through the rooms like a stranger, touching things we once picked out together. Sofa cushions, framed photos, a chipped mug from a vacation that clearly meant more to me than to her. Then I saw it. On the dining table, 2 wine glasses. One still had a faint red smear on the rim. Hers. But the other wasn't mine. She had brought him here. To the house I paid for. To the table where we had our anniversary dinners. To the space that still had wedding photos hanging less than 10 feet away. That did something to me I can't describe. It wasn't rage. It wasn't even heartbreak. It was humiliation. Pure, searing, soul-level humiliation. I took one of the glasses and wrapped it in a towel. I didn't know why. Maybe I wanted to keep it. Maybe I wanted to shatter it in front of her later. But I couldn't leave it there. I couldn't let that glass sit like a trophy of my stupidity. I packed what I came for and left before she got home. That night, I didn't answer her calls. Not the texts. Not the voice messages that began as "please talk to me" and slowly turned into "I don't know what you want." I wanted her to sweat. I wanted her to walk into the house, see the missing glass, and know that I knew everything. But then the unexpected happened. The next morning, I got a knock on my hotel room door. It wasn't her. It was him, Marshall, standing there in a gray jacket, hands in his pockets, eyes that didn't look as confident anymore. I opened the door slowly, just wide enough to let him see my expression. "You're either brave or stupid," I said. He looked down, then back up. "I didn't come to fight." "Then why did you come?" I asked. "To apologize? To explain how you accidentally dismantled my marriage?" He hesitated. "She didn't tell me it was this serious. The house, the life you built. I thought you two were separated." I laughed, sharp and joyless. "We sleep in the same bed. That seems separated to you?" He swallowed hard. "Look, I didn't come to defend her. I came to tell you I'm done with it. With her." I froze. "What?" He nodded. "After you called me, I started paying attention. She lies to everyone, man. Not just you. She lied to me about where she was, about who she saw. She played both sides. I don't think she even knows what the truth is anymore." I stared at him for a long time. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I'm walking away," he said. "And you deserve to know she doesn't have a backup plan. She's not choosing me." Then he left, just turned and walked away like it was all over. And I stood there, door cracked open, with 1,000 thoughts I never expected to feel, including pity. Because for the first time, I realized something. She hadn't just betrayed me. She'd betrayed herself. I didn't go back for closure. I didn't need her to cry or confess or explain away the nights she disappeared. After Marshall showed up at my door, something shifted. It was like the final puzzle piece fell into place. Not for her, not for him, but for me. For months, maybe even years, I'd been shrinking myself to hold our marriage together, convincing myself that love meant sacrifice, even when it became one-sided. But now I saw it clearly. I wasn't the weak one for trusting her. I was strong for surviving her. Still, I went to the house one last time. Not to talk, just to finish it. She was there, sitting at the kitchen table, the same one that had become a graveyard for our memories. I didn't expect her to speak, but she did. "I know he left," she said quietly, not looking up. "And I know you did too. I guess that says everything." I nodded. "It does." She started to cry, quiet, restrained. The kind of tears that come when someone realizes the damage wasn't worth what they chased. "I never wanted it to end like this," she whispered. I paused. "It didn't have to." I left the keys on the counter. No dramatic speech. No accusations. Just a soft, final goodbye. She didn't follow me out. She didn't beg. And I think, in some way, that was her way of admitting she didn't deserve to. A few weeks passed. The divorce papers were signed. No lawyers, no fighting. She didn't contest a thing. I think she knew she'd already lost more than she could put into words. And me? I moved in with my brother for a while, got back into hiking, even joined a weekly trivia night at a bar where no one knew my name. Slowly, the weight in my chest began to lift. The world didn't feel so dark anymore. It felt open, like I'd finally been given permission to live my life. Not the one I was dragging behind me like a broken anchor. One night at trivia, a woman named Lacey joined our team. She was sarcastic, terrible at sports questions, and laughed at all my awkward jokes. We started talking, then texting, then walking out to our cars together and pretending not to notice how long we stood there just talking. It's still early. I'm not rushing anything, but this time I feel seen, respected, real. So no, this story didn't end with revenge or regret. It ended with peace, and maybe a new beginning. Thank you for sticking with me through this journey. What moment in this story hit you the hardest? Was it the receipt? The wine glass? The confrontation? Let us know in the comments. We read everyone. And if you've ever had to walk away from something that was tearing you apart, you're not alone. This has been another true story on Reddit Confessions. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories just like this. Until next time, take care of your heart. It's the only one you've got.